Good morning, my fine, fresh fellows. It is Monday, the 11th of November, the day after the race. And this is my review and report of the great 5-mile coral reef swim. It started out innocuously enough, with Glenn and me and Lisa getting up early before everyone else and heading out to down to the boat. Fortunately, where we had to pick up the boat to go out to Buck Island was not very. It was like a 5-minute walk for us from where we were staying. Obviously, some of us just dressed in our suits. Others of us wore more clothing as we walked down as the sun rose. It was quite a beautiful day. Here is the weather that was expected for the day. Everyone was in high spirits, positive, happy, shiny people arriving to get body marked, which is what we were doing here. And then we were going to hop on a boat and head over for the, 10 or 15 minute ride to Buck Island, which is like a wildlife preserve, a great place to dive. So I had gotten up, had my typical apple for breakfast, a little handful of nuts, a cup of tea. I pooped, all of those things that you want to do before a big race. And this is about 6:15 right now. The race didn't start till 7:30, so we had a goodly long time. So here we are heading out. This is
I don't know how that happened.
As you can see buoys there, that is called Green Key. That is just a little island that I've been swimming to a couple days. And that in the distance, there's Buck Island. It's funny because we had kind of a bit of a rough passage going on. And even then, I was already feeling just a little bit queasy. That green roofed house you just saw there on the left is one of the sight points once we get out to the buoys. Get from Buck Island. So essentially what we're doing is we're swimming from Buck Island to the shore, and then from there we hug the shore and swim the remaining 3 miles. These were the water conditions. These were the sea conditions just shy of Buck Island. So that's the crossing we had to do from Buck Island over towards the main island. You can see one of the buoys there in the distance. There's a there's a good video out on YouTube by the organizers of the race. If you search for 5-mile coral reef swim Google Earth presentation, it'll show you the complete route that we're swimming. And I don't have YouTube Premium, so I couldn't download it. Anyway, so those were the sea conditions when we started. So everything was good. We got out on the beach. The water was just incredibly clear right there out there by Buck Island. And as it turned out, it was clear all the way back to that first turn buoy. So we swam towards the main island, and that was about 2 miles. And then every mile there was a boat where you could get hydration if you wanted. And so I figured I would take some at the 2 mile, not so much that I needed it. It was only going to be less than an hour into the race, but just to, salt makes your tongue big. So And those seas were rough, which means you're going to be taking a lot more on board than you intended. So it's really funny. I met some really nice people on the beach. Ricardo from Mexico City and Tommy from North Carolina, both in my age group. The guy who took second last year is in my age group. He's 55, former Stanford swimmer. When I say second, not in my age group last year, second overall last year. So it's a tough age group. And so the race started finally, 7:30, and there was predicting rain, maybe some thunder. We got no rain the whole time. In fact, the sun came out the last couple miles. So it started out good. I started out swimming, breathing 3, meaning I was breathing left 3 strokes, breathing right 3 strokes, 2 beat kick, feeling really comfortable. The great thing is there was a ton to look at. I don't know how deep it was, 20, 30 feet, but it was full visibility all the way to the bottom, and there were starfish just everywhere. That was really cool. So, starfish, chunks of coral, that kind of thing. But about a mile and a half into that 2-mile first stretch, I started feeling queasy about the stomach. Downright seasick. Because what's happening is you're being washed this way, right? And then you're turning to breathe. So it's, you remember the tea kettle ride at the fair, which it's your kettle spun and then the whole thing spun and then the whole thing tilted. It was a lot like that, except it just never ended. So I kept telling myself, man, if I can just get to that first turn buoy and get some water, maybe I can, feel better. So I got to that first turn buoy, and they threw, they can't touch the boats. They threw the bottle of water at you, and there were 3 young women, all in matching emerald green suits. Man, they were so positive. They were laughing. They were swimming. Obviously, they were all together because they had the matching suits. Swimming together, and they were about my speed. And I thought, man, if I can stick with these guys, that'll be awesome. Because then I can just draft and I can let them do the sighting, and I don't have to worry about it. Because I figured between the 3 of them, somebody will swim straight, right? So we started swimming, and I got about, 500 yards away from that first turn buoy, and I couldn't hold it anymore. And I started, they weren't quite dry heaves. Note to self, you cannot throw up if your face is underwater because there's too much positive pressure from the water. So I ended up having to stop swimming, and I yacked right there in the water, and then heaved a couple more times. Now, the funny thing is when I very first started off from Buck Island, the very first thing that happened were these 2 toes cramped completely down. And for me, it's from walking in the sand. You tend to grab the sand with your toes. So the first thing happened, my toes cramped, then my instep cramped. And, and part of that is that, I came off of this really wicked cold for the last 2 weeks and still recovering from it. And I haven't been swimming a lot. I think I was plenty hydrated, but the cramp started immediately, and then they just kind of went back and forth between my left foot and my right foot. And it's unfortunately something that as a swimmer you just know is going to happen. And you just keep swimming and you try to relax that foot. And eventually those cramps, the toe cramps, the instep cramps will go away. Even a calf cramp, you can flex your foot up, even though that does slow you down. But I didn't really have any calf cramps yesterday. So anyway, when I threw up, it was like a full body convulsion. And it went all the way down to my feet, and my feet cramped as soon as I threw up. Well, again, there's nothing for it. You just keep swimming. And at that point, I had just under 3 miles to go. More than half of the race. And I was able to swim the next mile. I threw up a couple more times. And unfortunately, the nausea got so bad that for the final 2 miles, I could swim 20. I made myself swim 20 strokes, and then I stopped and I popped up, because if I swam more than that, the nausea just got so overwhelming. And I threw up about every half a mile for the rest of the race. A lot of dry heaving, a lot of just throwing up. Sometimes chunks would come up. So all the apple and nuts that I ate, I'm sure were chumming the water for the swimmers behind me. Lucky them. Kayakers were coming over, and I apologized. I couldn't hear them, of course. I couldn't hear anything they were saying, but I'm assuming they were saying, "Dude, you're totally winning." So I just kept going, and it's like I just was determined, absolutely determined, to finish the race, as painful as it was, because it was slow. You swim 20 strokes, you pop up, you dry heave. You swim 20 strokes, you pop up, you dry heave. I mean, it was like that for an hour and a half or 2 hours. I mean, it was really bad. About a mile from the end, in addition to the, cramping of the feet, I ended up with, essentially from my wrist, that entire forearm not up into the bicep, but that entire forearm cramped, such that I had to, literally when I stopped to puke, I would try to rub this muscle out, because it was just, everything just cramped solid. Now, the thing about that, though, is that it doesn't keep you from swimming, because, you want it to be nice and stiff when you're pulling through, but man, it hurt. So I did finally finish. So this pretty much captures how I felt when I finished, and how excited I was. And this is a vegetable representation of how I felt yesterday when I finished. So when I finished, I sat down near the finish line. They had tons of umbrellas and chairs. I mean, it was just a big party, and people were having a great time, except for me. I was not having a great time. I sat down in a chair. I had 3 or 4 cups of water when I finished, and I thought, thank God I'm out of the water. Now I can start feeling better. But it, probably for the next hour, I was just so nauseous. And of course, laying down and closing your eyes doesn't help, because, your inner ear is still doing this, right? So if you close your eyes, your body just starts doing this, and it gets worse. One of the EMTs, a very nice man named Ben, came over and gave me some cold Powerade. I took one sip, and it triggered a violent convulsion of my innards, and I threw up 5 times right on the beach. All of the water and Powerade I had just drank came up, and then I just kept barfing. I mean, there was nothing solid left, but my stomach was really trying to get rid of anything that was in it. And so, like a little kitty cat, I just buried it in the sand. So that lasted about an hour. Finally, I started feeling better. They had a huge barbecue there on the beach. I was able to eat and did drink an entire bottle of Powerade and managed to keep it all down. But, I felt pretty punky the rest of the day. Part of it was just my throat was raw from all the throwing up. My guts were sore from, my abs, what little abs that I have were sore. But a good time was had by all. Bob finished third in his age group, and Jerry finished third in her age group, and Todd finished third in his age group.
And I counted 237 starfish from the start to the first turn buoy.
I told you there were a lot of starfish. So maybe I should have done that. Maybe if I counted starfish, I wouldn't have gotten sick. I don't know. Anyway, it was fun. And in my age group, I finished 8th out of 15. I did finish first overall in the 5-mile vomiting division. So that was something. But in my age group, as you can see, the guy who finished first overall is 55. You're younger than me. Former Stanford swimmer. Crazy fast. He took first overall. The guy who took second was 17 years old. And then the guy who finished third overall was like 40 or 50 seconds behind the winner or maybe a minute behind the winner. He's 59 years old. So I have got to get a friggin' different age group. So as you can see, my time was just shy of 3 hours. I should have finished around like 2:20, 2:25. I figured about 30 minutes after the first winner.
He was still 47 minutes faster than me.
If I had, I was estimating about 30 minutes or so after the overall winner is when I thought I would finish. So I was a good 30 minutes behind that. But, it just takes a lot of time to swim and yak and swim and yak and swim and yak. But the suits went over well. All the guys had matching suits. Had I been a little more thoughtful and thought about it ahead of time, we could have gotten matching suits. We all could have had matching suits, men and women. Because apparently that was a thing. I didn't even know it. So, but it was good. We had a good time. And as my dad says, what he wants written on his tombstone is sometimes DAL, but never DNF, which means sometimes dead ass last, but never did not finish. I was neither dead ass last, but I did finish. And for that, somebody asked me yesterday if I had fun. And I said, no, I did not have fun. I had a deeper experience than fun. I had the experience of being determined to finish the race no matter what. And I did. And yes, I will do it again at my earliest convenience. So that is my story. And I'm sticking to it.